Daisy will be the main antagonist of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, and today I'm going to prove it using the teaser that just came out and a little bit of theory crafting. So, spoiler alert, because my predictions are always right. I mean, look at the Sonic video. But before we go over what we're going to see, let's go over what we just saw in that teaser. The trailer starts with a slow pan across the floor showing Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and strangely enough, the decapitated head of Brawn. The camera pans up to show a colorful gas mask and several other toys in the background. PJ Pugapillar, Daisy, Bunzo, and even Catbee way over here. All the while, presumably the founder of Playtime Co., Elliot Ludwig, is giving us a speech.
There is nothing more gratifying to my soul than being the reason for a child's smile. To be the spark that ignites all their hopes and dreams. We owe everything to these children. This company and its toys are nothing without them. That is why it is with enormous pleasure that as the founder of Playtime Co. I announce Playcare, our very own on-site orphanage. A child should never be left unloved, never without a hand to hold when they see a monster in a closet. May Playcare bring joy, inspiration, and smiles to every child who enters these doors.
They weren't kidding when they called this a teaser. Honestly, there's not much here to work with, but there's just enough if we dig a little bit deeper. Immediately, the teaser kind of suggests that the next chapter's main antagonist will be Brawn, as we start with Huggy Wuggy, Chapter 1's villain, then Mommy Longlegs, Chapter 2's villain, and then we see Brawn. But this almost feels too obvious. I feel as though this is a red herring for the audience. Get them to think it's Brawn just to pull the rug out for them to get the surprise and the hype. Kinda like the Chapter 2 teaser did. Actually, there's a lot more that the Chapter 2 teaser can tell us, so let's go look at that real quick. We have a lot of zooming, twisting shots of the facility, all the while Poppy is singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider, ending with the words,
"Mommy doesn't like guests."
So in the teaser, we get Poppy, the last thing we see in the first chapter, singing a children's song at us and then seemingly threatening us that her mommy doesn't like us. When analyzed and with forethought, this teaser gives us everything we need to know about Chapter 2, with a little bit of misdirection. This mommy would be the main antagonist. She has something to do with spiders, and Poppy would be the mastermind we're up against. But then when the full trailer and game came out, we found out we weren't quite right. There was a spider mommy in Mommy Longlegs, but Poppy wasn't a villain at all, and until her betraying us, she was even helpful to getting out. So we had a teaser with several indirect messages about what's going on, while the most direct information was a misdirect. Back to the Chapter 3 teaser, I think that's what's happening here as well. Brawn is the most obvious information in this whole teaser. Putting him directly after the Chapter 1 and 2 antagonists seems almost too obvious for such a cryptic teaser, and that's because it is. This is the misdirect. The only question now is, what is the teaser actually trying to tell us? Well, let's look into it. So we get past the Brawn head and we meet the gas mask. This is dark, with the children screaming in the background and the voiceover mentioning the in-factory orphanage. I think it's incredibly safe to assume that this gas mask or ones like it were used in the orphanage to gas the children there, either with a sleeping gas to begin experiments or with their poppy flower mixture to induce experiments. Quick aside if you're unfamiliar, there's a letter in Elliot Ludwig's office that talks about doing experiments on rats with poppy flower and other ingredients, trying to induce some sort of preservation effect. If this can be turned into a gas, this could be what we're talking about, or it's sleeping gas to then experiment on the children. Why is this important, I hear you ask? Well, at the end of Chapter 2, right before we black out again, we see a sign for the Playcare, the very orphanage the teaser tells us about. If we're meant to fix what happened here, it would make sense that the place the guinea pig children were held is our next location. Okay, is there anything else of note in the trailer? Well, yeah, actually. The toys that are going to show up. We see PJ Pugapillar, Daisy, Bunzo, and Catbee. Why these toys? Well, I think this is showing us what other characters are going to be in Chapter 3. If you recall, Chapter 2 featured a total of 4 unique toy monsters. Bunzo, the Mini Wuggies, PJ Pugapillar, and Mommy herself. So in this teaser, we see all those characters, assuming that the Big Wuggy counts for the Mini Wuggies. And we see additional ones that haven't been active yet. Daisy, Brawn, and Catbee. I think this is the teaser sneakily telling us who the active monsters of the next chapter are going to be. Keep in mind, this theory only works if the antagonist for the next chapter is someone we've met so far. For the second chapter, we only met Mommy Longlegs in the trailer for the second chapter. We had no information on her before then. So if they're going to keep doing that, then those 3 are probably going to be these side toys for the main guy we haven't met. But if they're actually going to use a toy they've introduced, which they had more time to in Chapter 2 because it's longer than Chapter 1, then I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen. Either way, I'm technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. So if we have Daisy, Brawn, and Catbee being active monsters in the next chapter, some sort of gas hazard possibly having to do with poppy flowers, and the orphanage where children were used for experimentation, God, this is really punk hazardy, isn't it? What exactly is going to happen in Chapter 3? Well, let's set the stage for what we'll probably, most likely see. Quick aside, this whole theory wouldn't be possible unless community members like Cafe Pest and Moonsouls posted on the Discord about the trailer. I was on vacation, I didn't know about it. So when they posted it to the Discord, I saw it and I started writing right away. So if you want to have input on theories or anything like that, join the Discord, link over here is 18+, not because we do weird stuff on there, but I'm 23, I don't want to hang out with minors. But it's great, you know, there's nerds to hang out, game lobbies, we have a Minecraft server, it's fun. Anyway, sorry for the plug, let's get to the theory. We begin in a similar fashion to Chapter 2, waking up from blacking out, but this time in a damaged train tunnel with a sign leading us to the playcare. Going down a bit, probably doing some puzzle along the way, Poppy lets us know that this is where they kept their guinea pigs, where they kept her before she was Poppy even. And that we need to stop the toys in here so it can never be used again. As we approach, however, the windows are covered in a foggy pink. Poppy mentions that we can't go in like that. We'll need a mask, and we take one from a nearby location. How these gas masks will be used in the gameplay is impossible to know. But I have a few ideas. Either A, it won't impact the gameplay at all and it's just something you have now, which is lame. B, there could be a limited amount of oxygen per mask because they're old and aged, so you have to find new ones as you go along. Or C, my preferred one. You can wear it as long as you want, but while you're wearing it, your vision is impaired. So it's kind of a cost benefit. Then we enter the playcare and we see it. A giant daisy head spewing out gas through her petals. Pause again. What? Why would there be a giant daisy head? We've already seen what Daisy looks like here. Well, my friends, let's take a trip to the rejected aisle for why that's not who we're going to be seeing. This lore dump room from Chapter 2 gives us a lot of information, but I think the most important thing it tells us is something it doesn't tell us at all. Here's every form in that room. Do you notice anything that stands out? Daisy's form specifically mentions that she's a marionette, while every other form just states the name of the toy. If it's being written this way, wouldn't that imply that this toy needed to be differentiated, while the other toys didn't? And if Daisy needs to be specified as to what type of toy we're talking about, then that implies that other forms of Daisy have been made. And since there's no other form here, perhaps the other form of Daisy was approved for creation. So what are flowers known for? Their scent. That's why I think the original form of Daisy and the thing that spun off to marionettes were diffusers. Think about it, the company keeps talking about how they love to help children in any way they can, so wouldn't it make sense to have a little flower up by the bedside that could diffuse nice scents to help someone sleep? And if you already have something like that, and you have an orphanage of a lot of children in it, wouldn't a giant one make sense? Especially if you're trying to gas those children to sleep to do experiments on them. Or gas them with the chemical to turn them into toys. I don't really know which gas we're talking about here. But either way, a giant diffuser makes sense for a flower. So if that's our main objective, what other obstacles are going to be in the way? I think the Daisy marionettes could possibly be little agents to work for the big flower, if they're here at all. But in the same way, Cat Bee makes so much sense to be working for Daisy. What do bees love more than flying to flowers and spreading their pollen? Or in this case, gas. As far as Braun goes, I think this is where we get into the teaser's misdirection. Braun is decapitated in this trailer. I think that's because in some way Braun is going to help us in Chapter 3 and pay the ultimate price for it. Either Daisy's leaves are sharp enough to do something like that, or a toy we haven't met yet has a weapon. Something's gonna kill this guy. Eventually, we find a way to stop the giant Daisy and the playcare is no longer functional. Then, just like in the second chapter, we see this claw, otherwise known as the prototype, on the end of a long, stretchy pink limb, steal the diffusing mechanism within Daisy. Then we trek onward to the next location in need of decommissioning, the lab. I feel so good about this prediction. If we're talking about toys that we've already seen. If it's a new toy we haven't seen, there's no way I can predict that, but I still think the other three would be there. Also, I think that for the record, there's going to be 5 chapters in this game. We already have the first 2 and we just heard about the third. I think the 4th is going to be the lab with a toy with some sort of weapon on it, and then the 5th chapter will be us versus the prototype, who's been powered up with the mouth of Huggy Wuggy, possibly the body as well, the limbs of Mommy Longlegs, the diffuser of Daisy, and the weapons of this mystery 4th toy. And then it's just us versus them, and we get out with Poppy. That's where I think this game's going. But more than anything else, and more than me being right, my biggest hope for Chapter 3 is that it's scary. Chapter 1 had some good heart-pumping moments, but Chapter 2 wasn't scary, and it could have been. I go more into that here, which you should probably watch. Shout out to the best patrons out there, Emberisk, Amalgam, and Zenith, and until next time as always, stay toasty.